Now I'm going to replace the bellow on the driver's side. As you can see, this one's also torn right open. Got a bit of corrosion in there, but we'll take care of that. Since I already showed you on the driver's side how to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and get right to it, speed through the process. I've already removed the cotter pin here, so now I'm going to loosen this. Again, this is a 19 millimeter. And that's busted loose. Of course, this one was rusted on there too, so a little bit of penetrating fluid. Put it on the axle nut upside down and level with the top of the stud. And a little bit of assistance from gentle persuasion. I was able to knock that loose. So if this is loose, should be able to just take off the castle nut now and out it comes. There we go. Now, fun part, removing the tie rod. So I got myself a 19 millimeter wrench to hold on here. And I'll grab this with this wrench. Should be able to hopefully back this off. Oh wow, that's on there good. Oh, and I just busted my knuckles. Ow! Whew. Saw that coming though. Came loose though. Something did. So I'm gonna grab a hold of the nut again, and we'll just spin this off. Hopefully that's good to go now. There we go, yep. Oh, I should also need to count the rotations. I forgot about that. So, 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. About 12 rotations exact. That thing's a little rusty there. Now we need to get this lock nut off. That's going to be fun. Might be able to get my deep socket on there now. Yeah, do that. With my wrench here, 19 millimeter socket, deep socket. Oh, wow. Oh, it's going. Oh, wow. That's rusted on there a bit. Yikes. I'm going to spray some stuff on there and then I'll get that off. There it goes. Man, this thing got warm from the friction. There we go. One lock nut removed. And with that, we can now take off the old bellow. Remove this clip. Like so. Try not to lose it. I'm going to reuse it. Haha, that rhymed. And we just pull this sucker off since it's broken. And I got the front part off and it's all, the grease is all nasty and corroded. Looks like there's some play in that that's not good. To get this back part off, just unfold this part of the rubber back and you'll see there is a metal spring that holds this on. So you want to use that hook and pull that off. Once you have that spring removed, mine's stuck in one of these grooves here. As long as it's off the main one, it should just pull right off here. Just grab it and pull. There we go. There's the metal spring. So to remove that inner tie rod, I went and bought a special tool to do this from Harbor Freight. This one was the more expensive one. This was about 64 bucks. They do have a Pittsburgh style one that's 45, I believe, so about $15 cheaper. I decided to go with this one because it has more adapters. So here's the adapter. The one that's on this car is 1 1/4. I already measured it, but before we can remove that, we have to get a hammer and a punch and remove the little clip that's on there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but there's a little groove right in there. And when you put on this clip, you hammer it in. But now we have to remove it, so we have to get a punch and hammer it out right there. So I'm going to do this off camera because I have no room to show you, but take your punch and hammer that little clip back there straight. I'm going to do this off camera because I have no room. Looks like it's free now. Should be able to bust that clip loose. There's two of them, one on the top, one on the bottom, depending on how it's oriented on yours. So with the bracket free, I believe we should be able to twist this off now. So I'm going to be using, again, the 1 1/4 extension. So here is the end of our special tool. And it's basically a big crowfoot. What I'm going to do is, should be able to drop in like that. Take the crowfoot, put the extensions in, and then to lock the tool so it doesn't slide, you just spin this piece of metal. And there we go. We're now ready to take off our inner tie rod. So take this and work the tool up in there. And a little bit of twisting until it grabs, ideally, or it should. Then you take your breaker bar. I believe this is a 1.5 inch drive. Stick it in there. If it'll go in. There we go. And should be hopefully able to bust this loose now. Simple as that. That was no problem. Easy. So I should be able to turn this by hand, I feel. Yeah. So I don't need this anymore. So I'll take this and set it down. And with that busted loose, it just threads off by hand now. Simple as that. There we go. And there's that clip I was telling you about. You have to use a punch to get off. See, there's those grooves where you hammer the new ones in. And you just get yourself a punch and a hammer and bend the metal back so it lets go. So now I'm going to compare the old inner tie rod with the new part. This new part is an aftermarket. It's not OEM, but it's supposed to be OEM equivalent. This is a Moog inner tie rod. So the new one I got is by Moog, and they're supposed to have good quality parts. And there are some very slight differences, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same. The old part took 1 1/4 drive to remove it. The head on this one's a little bit smaller. It takes 1 3/16 to fit on this one. This design here is pretty much the same. You can see here on the old part the threads end right there. On the new part the threads extend out much further. I'm guessing they did this so it can fit on multiple cars and not just Subarus. It's my guess, but this won't hurt anything having extra threads because we won't use them. With this Subaru inner tie rod, you torque it down to, I believe, 57 foot-pounds. So there's no adjustment you have to make when you torque this tie rod down. So we're going to clean this up. It hasn't taken long for dust and stuff to collect on this. And it came with grease, so we're going to pack this little ball joint here full of grease. And then we'll go ahead and install it. And of course, make sure you put on that lock clip. So our new washer here, our new lock washer, looks like this. A little different than our old one. Next I'm going to grease this. So here's our little grease packet. I just have it in the vice grip to hold it. So. use your finger, pack that grease in there, like so. Now we can go ahead and thread this on here. So here's the new lock washer. You want to make sure those little claws there, the little tabs, are pointing towards the rack like so. You'll see there's some little grooves here that those will bite into. So basically the flat side goes against your inner tie rod like so. Then we can just go ahead and thread this in. Taking care to line up the washer once you get this close. You want it to be able to bite in there with the grooves. Got a little ways to go. Yep. Loosen that a little bit. You'll feel it. You just grab the washer and you just slide it. See right here. Now just pushing against the rack while sliding, and then you'll feel it drop in and you won't be able to turn it anymore. Hold it into that position while you tighten your steering rack. While you tighten the inner tie rod, there we go. And just like that, we have it. Something I'm also going to do is move the ball joint around and push some of that grease in there, just to make sure it's all good coverage. Next, we're going to take our torque wrench and torque this down to 58 foot-pounds. Just like that. With this design though, there's no two little divots like on the old part to fold this in, so I'm just gonna gently fold this in against this flat surface there. So I'll probably take some vice grips to bend that hopefully back, or use a punch to flatten it against this side, and then go down below, do it onto the other side, and hopefully that'll be enough to secure that. I have no room. Alright, now we're going to put on the new boot. So I'm going to take off this lock nut here. There's the new bellow. Should just slip right on. Getting it into this hole is going to be a little challenging usually. This can be a little challenging to put on, so if you push right about here and twist, and just keep doing that, it'll slowly start going. And pretty much got it now. Once it's past a certain point, it just slides right up there. And there we go. And just slide this until it grips. Right about there is where the clip should go, I believe. See, there's a little inner lip right here. So I said before I like to reuse the spring clamp, but it snapped when I was putting it back on, so I'm going ahead and using the clamp they provided in the kit. Don't really like these too much, but they work. So now with that in there, once it's clamped down, you can just refold this metal, not the metal, the rubber boot bellow around the metal gasket. That's how you clip on the outer bellow right there. You can see the lip in the tie rod just should be above that. That's how the last one was. There we go. Our bellow's back on. And again, make sure the lock nut's on here. So just thread that on. Should be good enough. And then we can put our tie rod back on. This took about 12 rotations, so I'm going to count our outer tie rod, I mean, if I said inner. So 12 rotations, let's see. 10, 11, 12. It's right about there. And then of course we can adjust this. Alright, now I'm going to line this up with the hub here. And we'll put our castle nut back on. If I can get this on. There it goes. And we put our castle nut on. And ideally should be able to make our tie rod adjustments now with it connected, just to hold this in place. So what I did here to try to get the alignment right, the newer inner tie rod has more threads than the old one. So I counted up from the base of the old one how many threads there were. And since this one has more, I then marked it off with tape. So the tape is covering all the threads that I don't need. So the old one had, I counted 32 threads. So I counted 32 threads on this one, marked it off, and then I took a picture of the old tie rod before I moved it, and I had 11 threads exposed. I also decided to switch out the old lock nut, the new lock nut with the old lock nut, because the old lock nut is thicker. For reference, that's the new one. You can see it's a little thicker, and I wanted to get my alignment as close as possible, so I decided to put on the old one. It's probably better anyways, it's a thicker nut. So now I'm got it about where I need to, so now I'm going to lock it down. So I'm gripping onto the outer tie rod with this wrench. Now I got my 19mm, and I'm going to cinch down the lock nut now. Get that as tight as you can. And then double check that you're happy with your alignment, and then should be good now. And then of course, when you're done, take your car to have it professionally aligned. And then we can now tighten down this castle nut to its full torque. And that should also be a 19mm. I don't have my socket, so I'm just going to use this wrench to get it started, and then we'll torque it down to the correct spec. Now with the steering locked, this outer castle nut will torque to 19.9 foot-pounds. And it's already there. Cool. Now I'm going to put in the new cotter pins. So there's the old rusted one, there's the new steel one, or aluminum, whatever it's made out of. You can get yourself a little kit like this. They come with all different sizes. You just simply thread it on through there. It's that easy. There's different ways you can bend this over. I just grab them and I bend them up like so.